When Horikoshi was designing the hull of Boku no Kia Phone Corporation Hero Academia, he had a few prototype designs for characters that got split up into multiple characters in the official product. One of these characters was Yu Takayama, or the original Mt.Lady. She was later divided into 3 specific characters in the actual canon, this being Uraraka, the new Mt.Lady, and finally, the stone-faced, size-bending Class B student, Yui Kodai. Yui Kodai is a pretty normal looking high school girl who rarely shows her emotions beyond her monotone expressions. Along with this, she also seems to only talk when she finds it most necessary, and even though she was created as a remnant from the Mt.Lady prototype design, unlike her design sisters, Yui is placed more on the back burner of the series as a member of Class 1B than as a more staple character to the story. Though, she was still given the same amount of love and detail as her design sisters, and we can see this firsthand if we examine her character, starting first with the meaning behind her name. So, Yui Kodai, like all of Horikoshi's characters, has hidden meaning within her name. Of course, you have the first fact that Yui is a slight change from Yu, which is the original name for Mt.Lady, which she derives from. Along with this, you also have the fact that Yui itself means plain or ordinary, which fits both into her personality and her design, as she is the most ordinary girl in Hero Aka. Though you also have the fact that her neutral expression is very important to her character, given the fact that it appears to be a direct reference to her biggest influence, that being Ultraman of the hugely popular and long-running Ultra series, though we'll talk more about that when we discuss her quirk. Along with this, you have Yui's family name, Kodai, which when broken down contains the characters for both big and small, which is both in reference to the fact that she came from a prototype gigantification character, along with being a direct reference to Yui's quirk, Size. Size is a fun quirk which went unexplained for quite a while in Hero Aka. How it works is Yui can manipulate the size of anything that she touches. This size manipulation goes both ways as well. It can either enlarge an object or reduce it. Along with this, the object's weight changes along with its size, becoming lighter when shrunken and heavier when grown. Yui also appears to have no limit on the amount that she can shrink or grow at any given time. Also, these objects can have their size restored to them when Yui releases her quirk by bringing her hands together, though she does not need to bring her hands together to activate the quirk. She can do so at will, and it appears it does not drain or stress her stamina at all to do so, since she can casually grow or shrink things without any issue. We even see this backed up when the quirk is borrowed by Based Monoma, and it appears to not stress his body at all either, so it's not just something that she's learned to adapt to over her training. Also, another interesting detail we learned from Based Monoma is that the enlarged or shrunken state of an object becomes that object's natural state, because as he explains, since he borrowed her quirk and made an object larger, that object will forever stay large if he doesn't release the quirk before his borrowed time runs out. Meaning that when Yui shrinks or grows something, she is changing the actual natural state of the object, which could be in reference to the Pym particles of Ant-Man lore, given the origin of the character. And also might explain why it doesn't stress her out so much to use her quirk, as she is just changing the state of something and she no longer has to focus on that specific object. Though the one downside of Yui's quirk is that it does not work on any living things, meaning that she cannot change her size or the size of other people, which until chapter 210 was believed to be how her quirk worked to begin with, but that was just because it just had no explanation and all we had to run on was size and that she was based off Mt.Lady. Though speaking of her origin, Yui's quirk seems to take direct influence from multiple places, starting first of course with her connection to the prototype Mt.Lady and the 2 characters that were created from that design. First of course you have the fact that she has a size related quirk, which is in direct reference to the fact that she was originally going to be a Mt.Lady, though unlike the Mt.Lady of actual canon, this affects the size of other things and not herself, which fits thematically since Yui is really reserved and not self-centered, much like Mt.Lady, who is bombastic and loud to a fault. Then of course you have the connection to Uraraka, since Yui was given the same release gesture requirement for her quirk, though this seems to only have been done just as a wink and a nod to the fact that they come from the same origin. Another similar detail we learn about Yui in her bio in volume 22, much like Mt.Lady, Yui had her own dedicated fan base throughout all of middle school, though none of them ever approached her and she never knew they existed and graduated without finding out, which is really close to Mt.Lady's own niche group of niche fans who like her for niche reasons beyond her hero work, which I think is a fun reuse of a character joke and makes me question if Horikoshi himself isn't a fan of this sort of big things. Takes one to know one, I guess. Also, another bit of information we learn about Yui in her bio is that she loves Matryoshka dolls, which is a repeating theme throughout Hero Aka, as it's a toy that is comprised of multiple different sized dolls which hold smaller and smaller dolls inside them. This plays into her quirk, as she can make things larger or smaller, much like how you can make a Matryoshka doll smaller or bigger by playing with it. It also might imply Yui herself is interested in things that remind her of her quirk. And finally, Yui seems to take direct influence from Ultraman of the Ultra series. You can see this in her hero costume being a direct reference to two of the most popular Ultramen. First, of course, you have her body, which is designed to be a lot like a female version of the original Ultraman, with a similar pattern throughout her outfit and her chest having a color timer or warning light in the same spot. The only difference is that Yui has a belt and pouches along her shoulder and waist to store shrunken objects in. The next reference within her design is in her hat, with a curved mohawk-like spike coming out of the top. This is a direct reference to the Eye Slugger of Ultra 7, another Ultraman who appears within the third season of the Ultra series. Along with this, the design of her hat also is very similar to that of Ultra 7's body design. Also, a lot like the Eye Slugger, Yui mainly focuses on attacking by throwing shrunken objects and releasing them, which could be in reference to Ultra 7's special move, the Ultra Knock Attack, where he removes the slugger and locks it in place with energy, only to release it and have it combust on contact with an enemy. Along with this, to reinforce the direct reference to the Ultramen, Horikoshi gave Yui's hero costume a silver and red color palette. This, of course, is the iconic color scheme of Ultraman. Also, I wouldn't be surprised if the color timer on Yui's chest was designed in a way to keep track of how long she can keep something shrunk or enlarged before she needs to release it, much like how Monoma has his stopwatches. And of course, we know that Horikoshi likes Ultraman when we see in the first chapter of the series that his silhouette appears among all of the fantasy heroes. There he is! That's Yui's dad! But one of the coolest possible references found within her ability is that the shrinking effect seems to be based off the miniature sets found within Tokusatsu series. As you see, the miniature objects appear almost like toy-like versions of the original, much like the props found on sets of Super Sentai, Ultraman, or Godzilla. Heck, Yui could even find a career in doing this if giant monster movies are still a big thing in the world of Hero Aka, as you could easily just blow up a bunch of miniatures into life-size buildings for like a Mt.Lady movie, or shrink them down for a more small-scale movie. She might even have already done this once for the dragon prop for Class 1B's play, as all she would have needed to do was blow up a Dungeons & Dragons miniature. And we know that the students were allowed to use their quirks during the performances, as that's exactly what Class 1A did. But at the end of the day, Yui's not a major player in the story of Hero Aka, as much as I wish she'd be. And then I can only hope in the future that she has some more interactions with the main characters themselves. Maybe a little talk with Uraraka, since they're coming from the same place, or anything, honestly. But I won't hold my breath on that. Though, I will say this. Studio Bones, if you do not animate at least a little bit of Romeo, Juliet, and the Prisoner of Azkaban, The Return of the Kings, I will be blindingly pissed. Come on, it's as simple as episode 0ing this bitch. Take a page out of The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya and make like this low effort product made by the characters in the universe and present it to us as an episode. It'd be the best episode in the entire fucking series. And if you enjoyed this video and want to see more videos like in the future, I have a Patreon at patreon.com/ManyNotTheBadGuy. And if you want to support Yui Kodai and her hero career, well, first you need to buy a copy of Shimonetta at buyshimonetta.com. All the funds for Shimonetta go directly to Yui Kodai.